Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'm back. It is I, Hugh Hendry, the Acid Capitalist. Broadcasting to you, my friends, from the sunny edges of reason, from the tropical island I call home. I speak of St. Bart's in the French Caribbean. And this time, well, I'm doing something different. By way of explanation, this podcast, it's kind of from the vault. I've kind of already published it years ago, like 2020. But before you rush to the exit, I swear I've sharpened the edges. I've taken the original and I've reworked it, given it fresh teeth, rewired it to read like a lost chapter from The Big Short or The Wolf of Wall Street. It's raw, cinematic, and it puts you right in the cockpit. Because it's the end of 2002. We're in the post.com wreckage. And as I step onto the stage as a fledgling, as a first-time hedge fund manager, with nothing but naivete, conviction, and of course I got full of damn crazy volatility. So look, if you're new here, welcome. But I think this is going to give you a proper taste of how I write, how I think, heck, how I swing. You see, it's the HH origin story. And yeah, I think it's got a little something for everyone. So, mes amis, strap in, because the ride starts here. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I get it. No one asked for a sequel, and I'm giving you one. I'm giving you Confessions Part 2. October 02, and my second investment letter. Now hold on a second before you nod off asleep. Take an espresso, because this is my second ever shot at trying to make sense of the madness of crowds, the madness of finance. Now, if you were one of the original 3,000 great, amazing souls who downloaded the first podcast, and it's like, you didn't download this because I've changed it. It's like, I don't know. It's like that DiCaprio movie Inception. We're kind of playing with time. But if you did download the original, thank you. You helped push me into the global top 10 for finance podcasts. Now, well, my friends, that's bloody hindsight. Well done. But today I'm taking you back. I've polished the edge. Let's stand on it. Because it was a moment when the market, like the S&P was up 9% that month, and I was flatlining. Zero, pancake time. The dollar was still flying. And I was being contrarian. I was building a case to take it down. Now, there was no macro consensus, no safety net, and certainly no parade for the acid capitalist. And so what follows is my fractured memory, a reckoning, and I got to say a few bruises. I talk about commodities, conviction, humiliation, and something I believe close to revelation. Oh my God, so many words. But let me reveal rather what I was thinking then before it all started to turn. So, you want pressure, the kind that new hedge fund guys and girls feel, the kind that twists your gut, flickers incandescently behind your eyes. Month 2 of my first quarter running a hedge fund. The market's up 9%, and me, I'm flat for the month, but I'm down almost 5% since launch. Do you know what we call that in finance circles? Holy shit. It's a grim, motionless purgatory. And I'm thinking to myself, did I name this hedge fund Eclectica or E-Shitica? Because it certainly felt shit. Anyway, around about that time, I placed my first real bet, the short dollar. The Dixie, the Benjamin, it stood tall at 110. And remember, 5 years later, it would crawl to the floor of 70. Now, they laughed in October 2002, whereas now they squint at the same fractures on the charts, muttering inane predictions, claiming like they always see it coming. I don't think so. Today it's a Mar-a-Lago accord that the suits think will push the dollar to trade the same path that I'm going to discuss. A mood shifting. But back then, the floor in my Notting Hill office, it positively hummed beneath the threadbare carpet. There were vibrations galore. It was the end of 2002, and my investment letter, I just dispatched it. I was dreaming of a currency market on the edge and the prospect of a hard fall. Now, you got to remember, Eclectica, my fund, it was a metaphor, a manifesto. I want to say it was madness, controlled madness, I hope, but madness in motion. A wager on a world that drifts off script. Not all the time, but there's drift, where the improbable, it isn't rare, it's poorly timed. I had a fund that was built for the kind of investor who doesn't chase the storm, but waits for it, knowing it always circles back and finds you, bites you in the ass kind of thing. The kind who knows chaos, it doesn't knock. No, cunning, deception, it slips through the back, slips the latch. Now that investor, I'm talking about me. Anyway, back to the trade, short the dollar. You see, I was long commodity futures, the CRB Composite, the Commodity Research Bureau, if you want the detail. Now, bullish is too soft a word. I was convinced this was gold's bottom, the ignition point of a super cycle, interstellar super cycle, a decade of decline, more than a decade of commodities flatlining had passed. Commodities, they smell like patients too long in the NHS critical ward. It was all there. I could see something had shifted. Prices in the absolute had stopped falling. Commodities had stopped bleeding against equities. The tide had turned, and yet no one noticed the relative performance of the gold versus the S&P. No one, that is, but me. Of course, me. Stocks had collapsed post 1999, of course. That was the trigger. A depth charge dropped into the still pond of my crazy mind. The shock wave rippling out. And you know what I did? I sent my team of researchers to the investment banks like they were bloodhounds. Because I needed to know, was this real? Was it structural? Could I scale it? Or was I just crazy? Because this wasn't just about risk. No, this was about hunger, perpetual hunger. And you know, those big questions. Could I stomach this trade? Could I take it on at size? Could I make Eclectica roar Like a racing driver pushing blind into a hairpin with no brakes. Yes, I'm watching Netflix. Yes, I'm watching the Formula One. The big question in life to the kids. How fast did I really dare go? Now, can I talk about my top 5 positions? What can I say? The disclosure is shit. All I can see, there was modest risk. Nothing was yet sized as a big deal. I was still a sleeping what? A sleeping tiger. I had 4. That's not a typo. 4% in commodity futures. What the fuck? Now, how that would grow. But back then, I had no teeth. I was still posturing, imagining the play. I was a paper predator, pacing my cage, waiting for the blood in the air. But I promise you, underneath that paltry 4% was something feral. It was the signaling of intent. It was the twitch in my trader's eye. It was the first drop of blood before the hunt. Cock-a-doodle-doo. I could see it. I was ready. But first, ladies and gentlemen, I had to go to Amsterdam. Not for the tulips, certainly not for the tourists, but for a company no one talked about. Its name, Amsterdam Commodities. It dealt in nuts and spices like it was still the 1600s. No website, no research coverage, no story. At least not one it wanted to tell. Just a foggy kind of building, brown walls, the scent of stale Dutch cigars, and the faint trace of something, again, feral. It was a feral time for my imagination. Now, the stock was listed, but barely, quoted, but not really present. Now, of course, now it's almost gone. Because along the way, success, or something that resembled it, modified their world. The business changed its name. I hate when they do that. The stock code was switched. The charts no longer track that time. It's like Amsterdam Commodities never existed, except in the mad hearts of men like me. Men who dared to believe in things with no pitch deck, no face, and no need to impress. As the robot said at the end of Blade Runner, all those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Only this one isn't lost. It's right here. It's coming at you. Lit up again for your benefit. Make of it what you will. Amsterdam Commodities, geez. The stock that smelled like hash and heresy. You know, I've got so many damn things darting around in my little head. I don't think I'm ready to discuss the fundamentals. No, what have I got? I think I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 errant threads going crazy. Fireworks in my head. Got to get them off my mind. Okay, first, concentrate, HH. First, George Lee. I want to talk about George. Second, Amsterdam. We will return to Amsterdam. Let's just say inspiration comes in many forms. And third is the really big question, the Big Bang. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anything better than great sex? Anyway, in that order, George Lee. I hired George. My recruitment process back then was borderline deranged, perhaps. You see, George arrived late, off cycle, out of sync with the nice, clean graduate intake rounds. No, that wasn't him. Came off the train from Manchester. He told me, with no apology, that he'd forgotten that he was supposed to find a career after university. Now, some would call that lazy. I called it promising. He was this untouched slab of northern granite, uncut, unshaped, and untouched by convention. That kind of, I promise you, you'll find this out. That kind of blank canvas, it doesn't show up in your office very often. I hired him on instinct. What else did I have? What I saw was an immense mind, quietly crunching everything around it. George was an abstraction from the tyranny of formality. He was a puzzle that no one dared try to solve. And you know what? George, he stayed with me nearly 20 years, was my investment partner. The man was an intellectual rock, solid, unbothered, exacting. Everything I wasn't. Right, I'm glad I got that off my mind, my shoulders. Next, Amsterdam. Now let's talk about what I really did there on that so-called funky research trip. So I was meant to investigate Amsterdam Commodities, a shadowy little firm dealing in exotic softs. You know, African spices, nuts, obscure pulses, everything bespoke, off-market. But what I did instead was, well, I disappeared into the smoke and the noise of the city's coffee shops. Let's be honest, there wasn't really any hard data on the company. No pitch deck, no broker coverage, not even a bloody website. It's not like they were exactly trying to sell anything. They weren't trying to talk. And that was the charm, like George. They had a building that looked like it was designed by a Chernobyl set director. Brown walls, ghostly furniture, everything. I said this earlier. It was all, you know, the way the Dutch, the guys, they smoke little cigars for breakfast. Everything smelled like stale cigars and the slow rot of disinterest. Who are you? Why are you here? Me, why are you even listed? No one really knew. They certainly didn't need us. I don't think they wanted us. And somehow that made me want them even more. Gave me a craving. Because at that early stage in the commodity cycle, everything felt paranoid and schizophrenic. I could hear the signal coming, but Wall Street was still selling the ghosts of the last bull run in tech, and beginning to buy the banking franchises that were set to expire worthless 5-6 short years later, 2007, 2008, baby. No one was talking about the secular bull run. No one except the voices in my goddamn head. So I went off grid, where I found creatures like Amsterdam Commodities, strange, stubborn, silent. It was the only equity expression I could find for what I knew was coming. Now, flash forward, let's contrast, again, Inception, flash forward, time travel. Let's consider how things change. Because early 2008, March 2008, peak of the commodity super cycle, and I'm long a Brazilian sugar company, Cosan, a big position. It turned sugar, Brazil's bountiful harvest, into ethanol. Brazilian cars ran on it. I had a big position, and I had to fly down to Sao Paulo to walk the walk, pound the ground, to see what I'm holding, to meet the man responsible. And you know what? Their CIO, the CIO, Chief Investor, no, I'm the CIO. The CEO refused to see me, the CIO. No apology. No friggin' excuse. Just disdain. Silence through their thick The thick glass of their shiny new HQ in Sao Paulo. One of those huge buildings with too much glass and squint. Not enough soul. I'd flown across oceans, across time zones to look the man in the eye. And he said, the receptionist. I sat there watching them glide around like they ran the world. Polished shoes, dead eyes, expensive suits. And the rage crawled up my spine like angry little fire ants. The Glaswegian in me stirred. Oh boy, that side of me. He doesn't knock twice. So I pulled out my BlackBerry. We didn't have iPhones back then. I pulled my BlackBerry out like it was a switch knife, a blade. Dialed my broker in New York. Shouted at him. Dump the whole goddamn 3% holding. Do it live, methodically, minute after minute. I dumped their stupid stock. All the time staring menacingly through their glass at the bastards who wouldn't open the door. Every tick lower, a slap. I wanted them to feel it, to watch their share price crack while I sat 10 feet away. Am I a megalomaniac? Perhaps. Maybe they learned something that day. You don't ghost me. You don't freeze me out. You bloody show me respect or I'll show you the bloody exit. Treat me like a tourist? Fine. But know this, I don't leave quietly. Now that stock, that Kosan, cratered that year. I mean, it was 2008. Luck? Maybe. But the point is this, respect and returns, they're often tangled. They're kind of twins, cousins. Now, Amsterdam gave me silence and substance, whereas Brazil gave me glass and expensive kiss my ass attitude. One I held, and it was one of the best performing European stocks that decade. The other, I sold it, and it later merged with Shell, and it now trades as Raizen, Raizen. Who cares? But at the start of the bull market, so again, time travel, end of 2002, at the start of this journey, I had a higher tolerance for madness. I was building, what did I call it? I called my portfolio a centipede. Dozens of strange, twitching little limbs, all moving in semi-coordinated chaos. Small, eccentric businesses like the Duchy. And I could back away from it if the mood shifted. You know, I had big ideas, but I had big risk. Big risk had to be traded. I wasn't looking for marriage. I was dating the market. Fast, non-committal, instinctive. Amsterdam Commodities, it fit the mood perfectly. Back then, it had yet to straighten its tie. It was cheap. It was obscenely cheap. You could pick it up at a 13, 14% earnings yield. You know what that means? It was like 7 times earnings. Clip a 10% dividend on the side. The thing just threw off cash. It didn't need love. It didn't need my attention. It just needed someone crazy enough to notice, to give a damn.
Orgasm has become the most mystified state of feeling. No one can be quite sure if they have it or not. Is it just ejaculation or is it orgasm? Is it just involuntary pelvic contractions or is one having orgasm?
Right, you've been very, very patient, my friends. Let's return to the Big Bang, the big question. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anything better than great, fabulous, orgasmic sex? Because I remember asking that in a... Why did I ask that? I remember asking that in a packed hotel room in Paris a couple of years later. The French, of course, mes amis, They leaned in. You could hear a pin drop in the auditorium. Brows, Gaelic brows furrowed, smoke curled, philosophical gears turning to the stage. They got it. Now, fast forward a few months later, and I deliver the same line, but it's a different room. I'm at the Breakers, Palm Beach. We're talking old conservative money. The air was thick, not with cigar smoke, but with disbelief. You'd think I'd shouted, I don't know, fire in a cathedral. You'd think I'd shouted something way worse. Stone faces, nervous laughter. No one wanted to touch the question. I find that funny. Warren Buffett, God rest Warren Buffett, he's not dead, but oh my God, Warren Buffett. Born in June 1930. Born into the tempest of one of the great bear markets. Tempest of a great bear market, making one of the great investors of all time. But Warren Buffett calls himself an oversexed guy in a harem. And the suits at the Breakers, they find that's charming. Me, little old me, I say it. And I'm a liability. Morgan Stanley hedge fund conference, I was never invited back. What gives America? For fuck's sake. Anyway, spoiler alert. I'm going to suggest that, I'm having a good time these days, but maybe there is something better. What's better? The notion of making, this is so vulgar, but the notion of making 10x, 10 times your money from a stock. I know, vulgar. I know, sorry, ladies. Try staring down but okay, in my defense, try staring down a market that no one believes in, buying a stock that no one's watching, sizing it up while the suits roll their eyes in disdain, and then watching it rip tenfold, a 10 bagger, making lots and lots of money. Not a one-night high, not a fleeting moan, but a screaming, decade-defining, soul-rearranging move. My friends, that's not pleasure. That's violence. That's God whispering, you were right. You were right. And they were all fucking idiots. Now, don't get me wrong. Sex is awesome. Sex is great. Really good. But a 10 bagger is good. Lasts longer, leaves a mark. You never forget your 10 baggers. And when they hit, wow, you don't roll over and light a cigarette. No! You reload. You go again. Forgive me. You see, what made Amsterdam Commodities such a great stock? Let me tell you what made it a great stock. Obviously, commodity prices, they trended higher, much higher over the first decade of this century. But then came Olam. Now, this was a controversial Singaporean trader that paraded high returns and clockwork consistency. And again, it was kind of off-exchange trading in kind of, let's call it rare softs and others. And their promotion, these guys had a pitch deck. They had a yearning to be loved. And they succeeded. In context, people were now tuned into the gig. And so Olam earned the sector. There was like 2 or 3 stocks globally, but they earned the sector a fat, rich re-rating higher. That's where the 10x came from. But partly from that, and of course, partly from the rich mine of profitability, the geyser of profits that we enjoyed. The only problem in Olam's case, it was all jackanory. It was all made up. It was fiction, a fabrication wrapped in fancy spreadsheets. Whereas the Dutchies, to their credit, the Dutchies stayed clean and steady, true to their oddball DNA. They didn't need to dress it up. They didn't get dragged down in Singapore's shame spiral. well, I want to say not much. The stock had to be derated. It's been derated in the year since, never been the same. But today I imagine it probably trades between 15, 17 times earnings. And once you're priced like that, you've got to deliver. Predictability is the key. It's reassuring. You've got to be like a Swiss watch or a corporate human resources memo, those awful things. And Amsterdam Commodities is many things, beautiful things. It even has a website, an investor deck, polished communications. But what it doesn't have is predictability. Certainly not the kind that justifies that kind of multiple. So yes, I cooled on it. Was it better than Great Sex? Don't know. But I'm thankful for the memory. And there you go. Voila, mes amis, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. And maybe you'll just wander over to Substack and think about a $15 subscription, $15 a month. I mean, wow, that's like buying 2 coffees a month. And you get to hang out with me every day. Ooh, wow. Anyway, I got to stop prostituting myself. Sex, prostitution. Where's this headed? Is this finance? Anyway, my friends, see you next time. Where I promise you, there will be the oratory for the end of exuberance. Yeah, I'm finally going to publish the follow-up to the Spice Ledger. Spice Ledger, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Lincoln, Hamilton, Ricardo, Trump. I love that. I love that podcast. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in. Much love from Sonny St. Bart's. Your asset capitalist, Hugh Hendry. I bid you farewell. Hugs and kisses and all things nice. Stay wise. Make money in stocks. Goodbye.